Welcome to the first episode of TYG's board game reviews, where we basically take a look at some of the board games we like and review them. We're going to talk about the components, the gameplay, and then when we're done, we're going to give it an overall score that we think it deserves. Just a little bit about the particular game we're going with. We're going with City of Thieves for our first game. City of Thieves is set in the city Cadwallon, which is a city in one of the worlds created by Rackham for one of their war games, and it only really focuses on the city Cadwallon. It doesn't actually talk about the rest of the world, so it's like its own little, I don't know, standalone product. The art style is really cool and does a great job of representing the Rackham source material. As you can see, the images are eye-catching, depicting the familiar fantasy setting with a traditional Rackham spin. Characters have exaggerated features and outfits, and they really leap off the page. So now we're going to go over the basic components of the game. The main component, as you can see in front of you, is the board, which has some of the treasure tokens already displayed on them. These have different things on the back of them, and that's basically the whole point of the game. You're trying to collect as many of those as possible, and each gives you a different point value, which is how you determine who wins the game. Then we also have the money, which makes really good sounds when you throw it on the board like that. And then we have the character cards, which you can see in front of you. Each team of thieves has a different colored card, but all the stats are the same. Each thief has special abilities, but we'll get into that more when we talk about the actual gameplay. And then there's the item and combat cards. Item cards will make the items you collect on the map better, and the combat cards are pretty straightforward, used for combat. And then finally we have the figures. They are supplied unpainted. As you can see, they're just a flat color and they slip into the base and that's it. Or you can easily paint them yourselves. They're actually made to be painted directly with primer. You can go right over them and they're set to go. That's it. As you saw from the images, there's those little colored bases. Those tell you which thieves belong to which gang. They also match the colored cards. And then there's just the regular components you have for any game, dice and action counters, but there's no real reason to see them. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the actual gameplay. As you can see in front of me, I have what everybody would start the game with. I have my action point tokens, which are these 7 little red circles. I have my 3 dice, which I'm going to need for all the rolls that you do in the game. And then I have the character cards that correspond to the gang that I chose to play. So I chose the red gang, so I have all 4 of their cards. And I have all 4 of the models arrayed in front of me in the alleyways going into the city. Now, you don't necessarily have to line them up like this. You could spread them out throughout the different corners of the board. But since there's only 2 of us playing right now, I decided to just line up my guys on the back edge. Okay, so we've jumped ahead a little bit into the game just to give you guys a better example of what goes on. I'm going to start my turn now. I'm going to pick up one of the Arcana cards. You do this at the start of all of your turns. And you could have, I think, up to 5 in your hand. So let's look at this, okay. Know what that does. So now the second part of my turn is going to be to activate one of the militiamen. And as you see on the card, it says that his movement is 1d6, so I'm going to roll the dice. I got a 4, so I can move this militiaman up to 4 spaces anywhere I want. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and leave him there. Okay, so this is the third part of your turn where you actually have to activate some of your thieves. I'm going to start activating this guy first. So I'm going to spend 1 action point to move him. I'm going to also use my Arcana card, which is teleportation. Now the way that works is it lets me, if I move on to one of the pentacle spaces, you see them on the map, I can teleport to a different pentacle space and then continue with my activation. So he's going to move one of his spaces onto this pentacle. He's going to come out over here. That counts as 1 move. So now he has 3 more spots left. He's going to go 2, 3, 4, which is the total amount of movement. And now I'm going to spend another action point to try and open that chest. So I have to roll the mind value of the character. So all the characters are the same stats. The mind value is 4, so I got to roll 4 or under. I rolled a 5, so I failed. So I can't open that chest, but for the sake of demonstrating, I'm going to force the chest open. I'm going to spend 2 more action points. I open the chest. I picked up a green gem there. And now he's now carrying that gem. Each character can carry up to 3 treasures, which is basically any little black tile that you just saw me pick up. And if they have more than 3, they must drop one in a room that they occupy, and they have to leave it there. They can't like go on with more than 3. Also, if you ever get attacked and lose, you have to give one of your items or money to the person who beats you. You'll see combat in a little bit. Okay, so we just skipped ahead a little bit. I finished my turn. We're going to demonstrate combat with you, for you, with Mark starting his turn. So Mark's going to pick up an Arcana card like I just did. Don't just show them, but don't tell me what it is. And then now you have to roll a d6. See, you get to move them 3 spaces. Okay, as you can see, Mark has initiated combat by moving the militiamen into the same space as my character. Whenever 2 characters are in the same space, combat happens. You can never have 2 characters in the same space, even if they're on the same team. So Mark's going to go ahead and do his combat. The militiaman's combat stat is a 2. It's the symbol. It's a number right next to the fist. That means that Mark gets to roll 2 dice with his combat stat. And then my character's combat stat, Dorak, is also a 2. All the character combat stats are 2. And that means I get to roll 2 dice. So Mark's going to decide to either play or not play an Arcana card. Mark's going to play Powerful Blow. What Powerful Blow does is it adds +1 to one of the dice rolls. So your highest dice roll. I'm also going to play Powerful Blow. And now me and Mark have to roll off. Okay, so I rolled, my highest is a 5 and I add 1, that's 6. Mark's rolled a 6 and it adds 1, it's 7. So Mark wins. Now what would basically happen is because Mark won the fight, I have to drop a treasure in that room, or if I don't have treasure I have to drop ducats, and if I don't have ducats I drop nothing, but that's not a good sign, that means you're losing the game. So I'm going to leave the treasure in the room, and now my character must run away 3 squares. He can't go through a space occupied by another model unless it's friendly, and he can't end in the space with another figure. Okay, so the game just continues going in an alternating order between you and the other people playing until the alarm sounds, and that varies depending on which mission you're playing, but in the mission that we're playing it's turn 5. Once the alarm sounds, at the end of your turn there's an extra step added where every player will place a porculus. So if this was the end of my turn, I would decide which alleyway on the map I'm going to block off, and usually you want to try to block off alleyways close to your opponent's thieves because you want to stop them from exiting the district. Any thief that's stuck in the district at the end of the game, which would be turn 8, they lose whatever they're carrying, and they actually don't contribute in any way to the points achieved by the gang. So the way that works is if I put this here, no one could exit this part of the map anymore. And then Mark would go do his turn, and he would put it somewhere else. And that would keep going. And if there's 4 people playing, this gets really hectic and chaotic. It's one of the best parts of the game. Okay, so just to finish up here, there are 3 ways to score points in the game. The first is with ducats. And there's bronze ducats, which are worth 1 point each. So this would be 2 points. There are silver ducats, which are worth 5. So this is 10 points. Then there's gold ducats, which are worth 10, and that is worth 10 points. Then, as we mentioned earlier, there are the items. So since I have 2, this is 10 points. And then if I had the mission card, that would add +1 to the total, so that would give me 11 points. And that's basically how you win the game. The person with the most points at the end wins. But again, as we stated before, you need to get your thieves out of the district for anything they're carrying to count. Okay, so just to summarize, we've played through our game and we're going to go over the pros and cons. A couple of good pros that we have for this game are we like the detail in the artwork, we like the detail in the cards, in the board. Overall, that's very good. The game is a really fast game to play. You can pretty much run through the rules and play the game in no more than about an hour. It's a very similar game to stuff like Mario Party, where you just get a bunch of friends together and play a really fast game where you just try to one-up each other and see who could get the most points at the end. I just like this game because I'm a fan of Rackham and I really like the worlds they created, so just finding out that this game was set in Cadwallon made me want to get it. Now on to the cons. It is a really simple game. As I said, you can learn it in about an hour, and I mean learn and play it in about an hour. The game mechanics don't actually change even if you play a different mission. What changes is like little special rules where like you have these many militiamen, or you have special characters instead of militiamen. One of the missions actually has zombies that are just wandering around the town, but they don't actually like change it into the core game mechanics. And the other thing I have a problem with is the characters are all the same. They have the same combat stat, the same movement stat, and the same mind stat. Even the militiamen have that, and it makes no sense to me. The only difference is their little special abilities they have, but all those abilities are useful. So there's really no drawback to like my orc in my yellow gang. He's really big, he's really powerful, but other than his ability to reroll one combat dice, he's no different than like the small dwarf. And I don't like that they did that. I think they should have varied it up a little bit. Maybe make the dwarf faster or something, but as it stands, they're all the same, and that's kind of the game kind of takes a hit. Overall, I think us at TYG are going to give the game a 6 out of 10, and that's your garbage.